And just to close up on the quarterback conversation, I remember in October, we were having talks about what's next for Notre Dame. And you kept saying, hey, you never know. There's a chance somebody's going to flip. And sure enough, at the end of the day, Minchie left the Pittsburgh camp and came to Notre Dame. So it all worked out very well there. I know you always want one quarterback at least in every class. So considering where we were in October when it was a big mystery, the fact if you get Minchie along with Hartman, my goodness, that's going to turn out very well for Tommy Rees and his staff.
Yeah. I mean, that's about as good as you can ask for. I mean, Darren, we had been saying for a long time that I thought that Notre Dame should have taken a quarterback, high school quarterback and a transfer last year.
Agreed.
For this 2022 season. They didn't. But we had been saying all fall, Darren, on this show that they should do that for the 2023 season. And I think On3's transfer portal rankings has Hartman as number 3 quarterback in the portal. So that would be a huge get for the Fighting Irish. All indications kind of are pointing towards that happening for Notre Dame. I think maybe after the bowl game. So something to keep an eye on. But I mean, you're looking at a quarterback room next year with, potentially Sam Hartman, Tyler Buckner. That quarterback battle will be outstanding. Steve Angeli, who, I still think very highly of, and Kenny Minchie coming as true freshman. Of course, you still have Ron Paula. So now you're looking at a pretty well-stocked quarterback room. Now you're asking the question, does anyone transfer out of some of those young guys? Does Tyler Buckner want to be used as a Jack Cohn, like he was with Jack Cohn in 2021 where he's a runner? I don't know, Darren. Now it's really fascinating stuff. So it's going to be a fun offseason.
Well, I talked to a Wake Forest writer this week on the program, and I asked him about Sam Hartman's running ability because he didn't run much this year compared to past years. And he just speculated that the blood clot that he dealt with at the start of the season and missed the first game, he had the feeling that they probably didn't run him as much to protect him, to make sure he got through the season unscathed injury-wise. And, of course, he threw 38 touchdown passes this year for Wake Forest. But if he is able to run the football like he has in the past, Mike, personally, I don't think you need a change-up quarterback. You've got a guy that can make all the throws. How many times have Irish fans talked about, we need to throw the ball down the field? Well, that's a specialty for Sam Hartman. So if you factor in running the read option, his athleticism, his accuracy, and throwing the deep ball, to me, if you get Sam Hartman, I'm not sure why we're talking about having a change-up quarterback. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to the other quarterbacks, but hey, this is college football. There's going to be hurt feelings along the way. You got to do what's best for your football team. And this is the type of guy Notre Dame has needed if they get him, I think, going back to Brady Quinn.
Darren, I think the word gunslinger is probably a little bit overused with quarterbacks, but he's a gunslinger, right? I mean,
Sure.
Just look at his touchdown to interception ratio these past couple seasons. 38 touchdowns, 12 picks in 2022. Last year, 39 picks, 14 INT. So that's 26 picks across 2 seasons. That's a lot of interceptions. So you look at, he throws a lot of touchdowns, he throws a lot of picks, and he's a pretty good athlete as well, when he does get outside the pocket. I wish folks would understand, like, when we throw out player comps, we're not saying, well, Sam Hartman is this. It's just like to give you an idea of like the type of player, yeah. Right? So Sam Hartman kind of's got a little Brett Favre in him, right? Like little backyard ball, like chuck it downfield. Is going to, make it an amazing throw where it's like, you should not have thrown that, but it worked. So we're going to clap. But then next time out, you might make that same throw and it's picked off, So again, he's not Brett Favre. Brett Favre is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever, throw a football. But so just understand we're just using that kind of as a comparison of styles. With Jack Cohn, Darren, he didn't have the strongest arm. Like, he was not going to be throwing the ball super far downfield, and he also wasn't a great athlete. Hartman is Cohn with better arm talent, with more mobility, and Sam Hartman's played a lot more football than Jack Cohn did.
Yeah.
Like, Jack Cohn had that Rose Bowl season at Wisconsin, took him to the Rose Bowl, but he didn't play a ton with the Badgers before getting to Notre Dame. Sam Hartman is the ACC's all-time leading touchdown passer. So this is like I said, a 5-star type of transfer portal get potentially for Notre Dame. Do believe that some SEC schools are wanting to make that difficult for Notre Dame, but from what I understand, Notre Dame should absolutely be considered the favorite to land him.
And he's ran that mesh system at Wake Forest. They do it a little different, RPOs. So
Darren,
teams
when you watch his, kind of his highlights from this season, a lot of it is off of, play action, or, we call it RPO, whatever, but it's, I have faked handing the ball off and now I'm throwing the ball down the field. Whether that's play action, RPO, that's what Notre Dame does, right? They're going, if your defense is going to suck up on Notre Dame's run game and now you have Sam Hartman to throw it in behind them, that's pretty good. I mean, you get the combination of Audric Estime, Logan Diggs running behind, this guy named Joe Alt in a pretty good offensive line, with Sam Hartman now throwing it downfield to, the likes of Tobias Merriweather and Deion Colsey. Whew, that's pretty exciting, Darren.
Yeah. This year, I think Sam would say, I like the Wake Forest wide receivers. And I'm not talking about the tight end position because that's totally different. But Wake Forest had some really, really good wide receivers. I hope we get the chance to see Sam working with this new batch of Fighting Irish wide receivers. All right, final subject. And I know we could take 5 hours on this, but you even mentioned earlier in our conversation, there's probably a minority of Irish fans that are frustrated. The guys like Keon Keeley and Peyton Bowen were in the class and ended up not being in the class. But overall, this is a fantastic class. So to make a long story short, Peyton Bowen was in this class for a year, the safety out of Texas, a 5-star. Then all of a sudden things kind of, I don't want to say spiraled out of control, but he made mentions on Twitter, there's false stuff going on Twitter. It's all about the best fit. Well, I don't know if that ended up being the case or not, but in a 24-hour period, Mike, he was a Notre Dame commit. And then at his high school, he started to put on the Notre Dame hat. He put it down, put on an Oregon hat. You saw his mom like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then he ends up flipping to Oklahoma, where he's going to play with his high school quarterback. How did you deal with this on signing day as a reporter who has followed this guy for so long and watching how things, these are my words, it just felt like they unraveled out of control before he picked Oklahoma?
Yeah. So he signed committed to Oregon, right? And that was a big surprise. No, we didn't see that coming. And then I have Oregon's National Signing Day webpage pulled up on my second browser, just hitting refresh. Has he signed? I don't care where he says he's verbally committing to. Has he signed and sent it in and the school's announced it? I mean, I saw other reporters, put out, hey, he's signed. Here's the story. Peyton Bowen signing with Oregon. No, you do not say he signed with Oregon until the schools announced it. That's the whole point of National Signing Day. It's when they sign the letter of intent. Darren, I'll see Notre Dame Twitter accounts be like, oh, so-and-so is signed with Notre Dame. I'm like, you want me to give you a cookie? Like, the school hasn't announced it. It's not official. That's the whole point of the day. It's when the school announces it. I can say so-and-so is signed. That doesn't mean anything. I'm not the school. Rant over. He hadn't, a couple hours go by, 2-3 hours go by. He hasn't signed with Oregon. It's like, what the heck is going on? Start kind of making some calls, and it's like, oh, Notre Dame and Oklahoma are still battling here. And I'll have an article at blueandgold.com, depending on when the time you listen to this or watch this. It may or may not be already posted on our website, so a little bit more of the backstory here. But the gist is, it was crazy. He called both Oklahoma and Notre Dame and kind of said, hey, like, I don't want to sign with Oregon. And yeah. So
that takes
at
a
that
lot of guts
point,
to call Notre Dame back after you do the hat
kind of
thing.
disrespecting them. Oh yeah. So, but at that point, he calls up both schools, but it's like, we're still at the point of, all right. By the end of the night, he wanted Oklahoma. But it's still like, I'm not believing anything until I see the school tweet it out. And then of course, they did the day after National Signing Day. So it was a saga, Darren, that I hope that I can put in the rearview mirror and not really have to talk about this one much. But it's going to go down in Notre Dame recruiting lore. That is, that's For sure. That was just that was a crazy recruitment. That was a crazy one.